This episode of the Linux Action Show is brought to you by DigitalOcean and by Ting. Go to last.ting.com and save $25 off your first device or your first month of service. Welcome to Linux Action Show, episode 345. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Hey, Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Are you ready for me to tell the folks about the big show today?
Yes, I am.
All right, well, good, because I'm not. I mean, I have no idea what we're going to talk about today. So coming up on this week's episode of Linux Action Show, here's what I do know. In the news segment, there's no news this week. There's no news.
Posh.
It's the end of the year. It's like Christmas week. There's no news. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to own up to our predictions for 2014. I've gone through and pulled some of the clips, and I'm going to start with one that I blew so hard. So we'll look back at our 2014 predictions now.
Okay.
In the second half of the show, we're either going to talk with Timothy, the founder and main maintainer of the Trinity desktop environment, which is a fascinating look at taking KDE 3, keeping it monitored in certain components like XDG support, display support, dbus support, and things like that, but keeping that traditional KDE 3 experience alive, sort of like Mate is to GTK 2, GNOME 2 era. So if Timothy gets his technical issues worked out, he'll be joining us on the show later today. If he doesn't, Matt and I, live with no rehearsal, no practice, will then instead do our 2015 Linux predictions. We don't know which way it's going to go, so stay tuned and find out. Of course, we also have feedback. We've got some great feedback about things you might want to do with a Linux home server and a couple of other really interesting things. Plus, Matt, as always, it is our picks.
All the time, every week.
So Hawkins the Wizard kicks us off with our Runs Linux picks. He says the sequestered TV show runs Linux. Sequestered? Like, do we really have to take every political term and make a TV show out of it? Like, state of affairs, sequestered, crime scene investigations.
Executive Order 911.
Could we jerk off the police state a little more, please? But anyways, sequestered.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Runs Linux. I don't know if this one has been mentioned before. In on episode 11 of Sequestered, in minute 3, there is a second of Nmap running as root inside a Windows 2003 device from Michelle.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, if you look closely, we'll see a laptop that's running Windows, but in there is some PuTTY windows to a Linux box. Supposedly the scene is showing a remote shell being opened by the attacker by the wife. So let's take a look, Matt. We'll do a little action investigation right here on the show live.
Check it out.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm picking up on. I'm seeing that OpenSUSE logo down there.
Yeah, I was going to say, the very first thing I see me a gecko.
So we got his, this is a screenshot of his desktop. So you gotta just look inside the VLC window, right?
Right.
Because, but I'm looking over here at the gecko, and I'm seeing KDE there. I'm seeing Chrome. But you see this line? You see it right here. I'm zooming in, Matt. You see this? That line right there underneath the task manager.
That's it.
I'm wondering if that's not VirtualBox.
It feels like VirtualBox. It's got that. You know when you can't get your stuff to go full screen.
Right.
It's got that going on.
Exactly.
Hackers can't get it to work. So
but I do like that it's called InfoSec Institute. That's the machine's host name.
I like that.
That's pretty cool. And you can see it's legitimate. It's legitimate port. This is not Nmap though. This looks like more like a stat of open and listening ports. And then over here you have System Monitor, which is interesting. That looks like the GNOME System Monitor, but they're in KDE.
Okay.
And then it looks over here maybe like a little. See, I'm gonna guess this is a little Wireshark action.
Oh yeah,
right there.
Yeah, it is.
So this is legit.
They're using legit tools in a show, so that adds some authenticity.
What I would love to know is what are they doing in the show to generate this CPU load right here? Like, what are you doing, right? Because when I want to demo stuff on the show, sometimes I will do something to create CPU load. So, anyways, I'm always curious, like what you could do to do that. Anyway, it looks like a great. So now, what's interesting though is he said sequestered.
Yeah.
But in his VLC title here,
it says something different.
The Strain. See, so I think he said the wrong show.
Well, it could be an episode name.
No, I think
I see what you're saying, because it's got season 1, episode 12.
Yeah, but I don't know. What do I know? Oh, you know what it might be? It might be our second Runs Linux picks. That's right.
It.
Sent in by Andy Weiss. It is, in fact, The Strain Runs Linux. So we got two TV shows that runs Linux. Yeah, no, two. We got two. Sequestered and The Strain. They both. I was just teasing you. Both shows run Linux. More and more we're seeing like legitimate. This is okay. Part of me is like, really, the hackers, like the bad guys, kind of have to be running Linux. But then part of me is like, I love seeing them do it right. I love seeing, like, this is legit. This is, like, if you were going to go try to get access to somebody's box, you would have this. You would be looking at open ports.
Yes.
You'd be using Wireshark. You'd probably be using KDE. Let's be honest. You'd probably be using KDE.
And you know, the real bad guys are, of course, using Chrome because...
And not Chromium.
No,
not Chromium.
No.
Good catch. Good catch. I also, and not K System Monitor. Not that crap. No, they're running GNOME System Monitor.
On a KDE desktop. Which
also,
is
it doesn't look like those are not. Oh, those might be KDE. I was thinking those might be like a Numix kind of title bar, but it's hard to tell.
That would be cool. That would actually be very cool.
But a special thank you to Hawkins for sending that in, and also a special thank you from Andy Wise for sending both of those in. Hawkins, I tried to find a video clip of the Runs Linux, but I couldn't. TV shows I like doing, but I really, really love doing the TV shows when there's like a video clip.
Absolutely.
I wasn't willing to sick rage or sick beard sequestered.
Yes. Yeah, that does sound kind of like a thing.
Yeah. Could you imagine like getting a letter from Comcast saying, "Dear Mr. Fisher, your account is on notice because you pirated the TV show Sequestered"? Like, that's a low moment. Okay, so I just wasn't willing to go there. I'm sorry, but I'll tell you where I am willing to go. I'll tell you where I'm willing to go every single day. All day long, DigitalOcean.com. That's where you should go too. DigitalOcean.com, and bring our promo code of victory last December. That's one word, LAS, December, when you check out. You're going to get a $10 credit. Now, why would you want a $10 credit? $10 credit to what, Chris? Geez, you're jumping ahead. It's because I want you to remember last December because that supports the show. But let me tell you about DigitalOcean, and then you'll know why you want a $10 credit. DigitalOcean is a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way to spin up a cloud server. What that S means is that you're going to get going in no time. No friction. You think about an idea. From moment of thinking about it to creating the server, you're ready to go. And you can get started in less than a minute. And pricing plans start only $5 per month. It's going to get you 512 megabytes of RAM, 20 gigabyte SSD, 1 CPU, and a terabyte of transfer.
Nice.
Yeah. DigitalOcean, and that terabyte, by the way, where do you want it? You want it in Amsterdam? Sure, you could do that. New York, San Francisco, Singapore, London. Yeah, they've got data centers all over the world, multiple locations in some of those cities as well. But it's really, really about the interface. A control panel experience that's been made simple, but it hasn't removed functionality, right? It's not the GNOME project here, okay?
That's right.
They're not taking away functionality in the name of simplicity.
No.
They are truly inspired designers who are creating something that allows you to manage a pretty sophisticated system, and they're doing it in what I believe is setting the bar for the industry. Their interface is intuitive, and power users can replicate this control panel on a much larger scale with DigitalOcean's straightforward API. Now, you can either take advantage of that API yourself, or you can take advantage of all the community members who are making applications around that API. Look at all of these. Basin, manage your droplets with Basin. Basin is a DigitalOcean client for Android and iOS. The DigitalOcean Toolbox, the API for PHP. Swimmer, a full-featured open-source Android client to manage your DigitalOcean droplets.
Wow.
Command.io, manage DigitalOcean droplets, easy online provision maintenance. Plug it in with Puppet. Here's a Puppet Pet, a simple GUI to set up virtual machines for web development where you just spin up a DigitalOcean droplet.
Cool. Oh,
GitGo, a free private repository for hosting DigitalOcean integrations and deployments. Vagrant, you guys know what Vagrant is. Cloud66, Drizzle, all these built around the straightforward DigitalOcean API. Plus, DigitalOcean is willing to pay the community to write tutorials because they want to invest in these tutorials, and they already have some of the best in the business. Go check them out, and if you'd like to write a tutorial, you can, and they'll pay up to $200. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code last December when you check out. That'll give you the $10 credit, which you can try out the $5 rig for 2 months for absolutely free. But it also lets them know that you appreciate them supporting the Linux Action Show and keeping us on the air. DigitalOcean.com. Go spin up a droplet right now. Lots of things you can do with it, or go write a tutorial and check it out. And use last December when you check out. DigitalOcean.com, and a huge thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
Love those guys.
Matt, one of my big shames of 2014 is my use of Viber. I mean, don't get me wrong. I super appreciate them releasing a client for Linux.
Right.
And Viber, for those of you who don't know, it's like an instant messaging client that works on mobile, all the platforms.
Yeah, it really does.
Linux, Mac, and Windows. And it lets you do voice messages, picture messaging, group chats.
It's super useful.
Yeah. However, Viber is going in a direction that's not exactly in line with where I want to take things production-wise. They're making a gaming platform. They want to monetize through stickers.
Right.
And the other problem
the stickers are definitely
cutesy.
Yeah,
They're cutesy.
you know what I like is when I'm trying to do something and the stickers are all like, hey, we got a sticker for you. Check it out. You know, it's like just nags me the entire time. I'm like, yeah, you got a sticker. That's great. And I dismiss it. And then it pops up again. Hey, man, I got a sticker. It's like it just nags at me and grates on my nerves. And I like Viber, but that's one thing that drives me nuts is the stickers. I like sending them, but I don't need to be nagged that there's a new sticker available. I don't care. If I want to know, I'll go look at the marketplace.
It's spammy, right?
Yeah,
and
just
then,
saying.
On top of all of that, there's the security aspect. Viber has some security flaws I'm not super comfortable with.
Okay.
And they don't really support encryption very well. Now, you guys already know about Telegram, a lot of you, because you've told me about it. That's how I heard about it. But you also have not really tried it. So this last week, I gave Telegram a go.
Okay.
Now, Telegram is a messaging client that itself is not open source, yet they have pledged to be open source, but, you know.
They're not there. Okay.
So don't, you take that for what it's worth. I figure if they ever get around to it, that's just a bonus. However, it's based on an open protocol and open API.
Oh, okay.
And this API and protocol are extremely well documented. The NT Proto is the mobile protocol. All of the information is available. You can already use Pigeon on top of this. You don't even have to use the Telegram messaging client.
Okay, that's very cool.
So like Viber, it's mobile first. You set up Telegram on your mobile device. You give it your phone number. And you either choose to or not choose to allow it to have access to your contacts. If you choose to give it access to your contacts, it'll find other people that are already using Telegram. Nice. And when they join Telegram, it will alert you. So it's kind of handy. Telegram is end-to-end encryption with a documented API and protocol. But the neatest thing about Telegram is it is very, very fast. It is very fast, real-time messaging. If I send a message on my desktop client, it's immediately showing up on all of the other devices that I have set up. It supports connecting and disconnecting, so if you're moving between cellular and Wi-Fi a lot, if you're at a conference, it's very robust that way. It's encrypted, and it also has support for all the things I love about Viber. Voice messages, picture messaging, file transfer, group chats, one-to-one chat. But it has the added benefit of security and being very slim. Yes. And last but not least, it does all of that stuff on Linux. So you don't have to just be on mobile. You can use the Linux client. So let me show you the Linux client
Does it minimize to tray? Because that's one thing about Viber that drives me nuts.
No, but producer Eric is working on that right now.
Oh, awesome. Because I just use all tray at this point. It's fine.
That's what he's doing. So there we go. So there's producer Q5Sys. He's just pinged my... we have a JB production chat. So if the producers need to get something in front of one of us or need to chat with each other, they can. And this is the Telegram chat client right here.
That's very Viber-like. I like it.
Yeah, it's very Viber-like. But
which is good. That's a good thing. I like that.
It's the best of Viber, but without any of the crap either. So you can, here is all the people in this chat. You can also see all of the photos that have been shared in this chat, which is kind of cool. It has its own group picture. And the other thing that's nice is it supports click and drag for images. So let's say I had a picture here of this, look at these beautiful mountains, right? Some freaking beautiful mountains, right? I'd love to have those freaking mountains, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll drag it onto the chat program here, and two boxes pop up on the Telegram chat.
Nice. Okay.
Drop image here to send without compression, or drop image here to compress and send quickly.
I like that on two different fronts. I love the fact that you can just drag and drop that bad boy, but not only that, but it also gives me the option of how I want to share it. Yeah, and then you get the status right there. It has 1 check mark means it was delivered. Right. 2 check marks means it was read. See, Angela just sent me a telegram. Hey, did you remember to change your underwear this morning? That's that's important stuff. Not a problem. Not wearing any. See, there we go. He's gone Kim Commando, folks. Okay. So it's. It does pictures, and the other thing that's really neat is, of course, it's using Qt. On the mobile client, what's really neat is it ties in Google Image Search, and you can bring in just GIFs, so you can do some meme type stuff. But the GIFs don't autoplay. You have to go in there and click play. Yeah. So Chase was sending me some last night, and so if you go in there and click them, it'll download them and play them. Oh, that's something. Yeah. So there's that. Wow, Chase. Okay. Yeah, the built-in image viewer is actually really nice. So there's the built-in image viewer, pulls it up full screen, lets you download, forward it to somebody, delete it from your chat if you don't want it in your history. Well, and I don't necessarily want Beaker in my history, but I do want to share my Beaker. Right. You want definitely. Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm not kidding. If you open this up on another machine, the chat is instantly available. And what's beautiful about all of this is it's all super encrypted, well-respected, community audited, encrypted, and it's all documented. Now, the client itself is not open source, right? But you could actually plug in the Telegram network into Pigeon and other. They have a libpurple. Between that and the open protocol, I mean, it feels. I feel comfortable in doing that for sure. And so, transitioning for us, this is a no-brainer to transition from Viber to Telegram. Yeah. And the thing that really gets it at the end of the day is it's an instant messaging platform, but on top of that, it's so well supported.
And it's crazy. I find that we actually need something that's mobile first because the production team can literally be anywhere in the world.
Right.
And they always have their phones with them, but they don't necessarily have their laptops with them. So at any given time, the half of them, sometimes the majority, are all responding on their phones. And when we're at a conference, it's even more critical that it works on their phones. So starting with something that's mobile first, as ridiculous as it seems, was actually the right approach for us. That's Telegram. I mean, you sign up with your own phone number. Yeah. Once you've signed up, you get a username, and you get like a web presence. And the other thing that's really cool is they have a full-baked web messenger. So if you for example, if you'd like to message me, you can go to telegram.me/ChrisLAS. That'll get me on Telegram, and you can send me a telegram. It's telegram.me/ChrisLAS. Everybody gets their own profile once they've set it up. But you can also just use the straight up web chat client. Let me see. It's really cool. In fact, I'll look it up for you. Telegram web chat. So even if you don't have it installed on a machine, you can sit down and use the Telegram messenger from any machine.
I like that a lot. That's really cool.
I was using it last night. You got to set it up once. You got to assign it the same thing. So I haven't used it on this computer, for example. So you do have to go in there and put your phone number in.
Yeah, of course.
But once you've signed it, it sets a cookie, and then it's all of your chat sessions are all persistent in the web client, on the mobile client, and on the desktop client, which is really cool. And
I like it.
Telegram looks like it's a pretty good project. So
it seems like this is very text centric. Anything with voice?
Yes, it does voice clips. Yep, and they're working on video right now.
Okay,
it's already massively successful.
So
in the
we're
Google
switching
Play
over to
Store.
this. I'll get on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we're gonna drop Viber, and we're switching over to this because it seems like it's a little more in line with what we want to do. You know, it's not trying to do games. It's not cutesy.
No. You're not stickering me to death.
It's down to business, and even if they stop developing the Telegram desktop client, it already works in several Linux open source messengers.
Good stuff.
So like you're always gonna, and like if you wanted to, like if for me, I could have Pigeon, few GNOME extensions. I've got a fully integrated Telegram messaging experience right into my GNOME desktop.
I'm just saying, that sounds awesome. I love that.
Telegram. Telegram.org. Plus, then you can say, hey, I'm gonna send this guy a telegram, or that gal.
I love that.
Hey, baby, I'll send you a telegram.
Can you actually do like, Chris, stop?
Yeah.
Stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we should do stop.
That would be hysterical.
And if you're paranoid, you can go read up all about the encryption that they use and all of that. I got links to all that business in the show notes. One last cool thing I forgot to mention. Full on, no S, CLI version of the client.
What?
You can do it. So like you could have a Guake drop down, right?
Dude,
and have Telegram up in that business.
That's how it's going to be on my desktop. Yeah. That's what I'm going to do. Done.
So I linked to that in the show notes if you want to get that. It's all available in the AUR, but it's also there's PPAs. There's Arch, there's Fedora, there's OpenSUSE builds. I mean,
boom.
Producer Eric's been trying it out on OpenSUSE. Q5Sys been trying it on Puppy and Fedora. I've been using it on Arch. I believe Noah's been trying it on Fedora. So we've had a wide spread over the last week of testing, and it's gone pretty well.
Good stuff.
And we've been trying out the group chats and all of that. It all works really well. Speaking of Fedora, Spotlight for this week, I mentioned a couple of other ones recently. We've been doing a lot of Fedora coverage.
Yeah.
Just to kind of punctuate all of that. It's called Easy Life.
Oh, I like where they're going with this.
Yeah,
I like the Easy Life.
Yeah, it allows new and even experienced users to install configured software and configure it on Fedora just by clicking it. Simple, clean. Among others, these lets you do it. Sets up sudo for your user accounts, configures the RPM Fusion repositories.
Nice.
Installs Flash.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
All kinds of codecs, your H.264, your DivX, your MP3, NVIDIA or ATI drivers, depending on your peculiars. Skype. Java, and the Java plugin for Firefox.
It feels a little bit like automatics.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. But that's not a bad thing.
Yep. And also, I've talked about it before, but Feedly, I have a link in the show notes. So there's a couple of Fedora programs. It's interesting. Remember when Ubuntu was in the stage?
I know, and it's like, and then everything just kind of. That's a very good sign. This is a very, very good sign. If this is happening now,
I agree.
Same.
People watching are like, if I use Fedora, why do I need these training wheels to set up? They're getting all beardy on us, I'm sure. But in reality, I think what you just said, and it's exactly right, is Fedora is reaching a new level of audience where this kind of stuff is necessary.
Exactly.
And I'm going to be honest, even though I could set up all of this stuff, and during the 21 beta, I had to set up all this stuff manually, I would still, today, when I install Fedora 21, I was using Fedi, but Easy Life I like even more. So Fedi is another option, Fedy. Oh, yeah. You know, I'm an old codger, I guess. What I don't like about Fedi is they tell you to start by running a curl command as root and pulling something off the web and installing it.
No. No, why don't you just run as root in general at that point?
Yeah.
I mean,
so that makes
browse the web and run some Java.
My lawn, right? I start looking at my lawn. I start thinking, get off of it. But I've tried it. It's fine. If you trust the source, it's legit. I don't like setting that habit for the users, for the type of users that need this kind of software. It's not a good thing to do. Don't run curl and start an installer as root that you download off the web. That's just generally not a good thing. Fedly does that, or FDY. I've done it. It was fine.
I think I would be okay with it if there was a little bit of education below that box. That you pop it down, it opens up and says, hey, by the way, here's why. You can do it here, but we wouldn't necessarily recommend you make this happen.
Right.
Just saying.
That's a good call. Whereas Easy Life is a download, right? You go over there, you download your Easy Life, you install it, and then you run it. It's a little more traditional.
$10,000 question that Automatics ran into is, whose repos are we running here?
RPM Fusion is what they pull from, which is sort of what has a lot of the Fedora community.
Okay, then that's okay. See, that's
They're
great.
not doing their own custom.
Because that's where people usually get off the off the wagon on this stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So if you're doing a Fedora 21 install, which is a great release of Fedora, check out Easy Life. We'll have a link in the show notes. And Fedy, F-E-D-Y, which also is, I ran it because it had 21 support before Easy Life, I think, and it was great. But I don't like running stuff like that. All right, Matt, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode's brought to you by
Ting.com, Matt. Ting is mobile that makes sense. Ting is my mobile service provider and Matt's mobile service provider. Woo! I feel like we're getting a little old. You've still got the Note 2 and the Nexus 5. These are just great phones.
It's okay, though, because I have, the FBI action here.
You do.
That's cool.
What's great about Ting is they flip the model. So that way, the longer you have the phone, the more money you save, the more value you get out of it. I like that because sometimes consumerism kind of gets away from us and new and shiny, and Ting is here to make sense and kind of put it all in perspective, because here's why. There's no contract. There's no early termination fee.
None of that.
You're only paying for what you use. Ting takes your minutes, your messages, and your megabytes. They add them all up in whatever bucket you fall into. That's just what you pay. It's a flat $6 for your phone line. And then it's just your usage. You get the Ting control panel, which is the best dashboard around. It lets you manage it. You get the no-hold customer support and the active community. It's all about, it's not just a group of cell phone users who are passionate, but it is the people that are passionate about geeking out the system, figuring out how to get Ubuntu Touch or Firefox OS or Sailfish, all on Ting. And Ting's just getting better, too. In February, they're adding GSM support.
Ooh, big time.
So not only are you going to get all of the awesome Ting benefits with the existing Ting plan, but starting in February, they'll also support CDMA and GSM simultaneously. Pretty cool.
Pro tip, guys: if you got family that are on GSM plans, put the IDs in the thingamajigger and check it out.
The BYOD device checker.
Yeesh.
And you can put the EMI or whatever, the EMEI on there, and that'll do a little device check and tell you if it's compatible. Plus, for a limited time remaining, Ting has an extra incentive. If you're in termination, if you're in a contract right now and you get a termination fee, they'll pay up to $150.
Boom.
To get you out of that. Yeah. So you can go over to Ting right now. You go to las.ting.com. las.ting.com. That'll give you $25 off your first device. If you've got a compatible device, like Matt was just saying, they'll give you a $25 credit.
That's right.
So if you've got a GSM or CDMA device that's going to work, you bring it over to Ting, you get the $25 credit for Ting. Well, average Jupiter Broadcasting Ting customer bill price is $26.
Nice.
Average. Now, mine sometimes is lower, sometimes it's higher.
Right.
But if you also take advantage of their limited ETF relief program where they're going to give you $150 in credits, you get that on top of our $25 credit. That could be months of free Ting service. And the great thing about Ting is you want a hotspot, you just
boom.
You go in there and you just turn it on. You just be like, I want hotspot.
It's real complicated. You go
checkbox,
and you're done. Done, son.
And now you got a Wi-Fi. You don't have to worry about
down,
you're not breaking plans or skating around the rules.
No man's sunglasses show up at your door.
No,
it's all good.
It's just you pay for your usage.
Right.
And the other thing that's great about Ting is your money's going towards a group of people who really want to make a difference. They want to make a difference in internet access. They want to make a difference in landline access. Yeah. And they're also Android enthusiasts. And so Kyra's here this week with one of her famous app picks.
Want to get the best gas price each time you fill up?
Yes.
I'm Kyra, and this is Ting's App of the Week. GasBuddy displays gas prices all around you, so you can get the best possible deal on fuel. Good for both gas and diesel, it's the perfect app for both long-distance drivers and anyone planning a road trip. Tap Find Gas Near Me to see a list of locations around you and corresponding gas prices. Sort by price or distance and fuel type.
Look at Kyra rocking L.
I know, right?
Or use GasBuddy's Map View for a visual look at prices and stations nearby. Noticed a price change? Tap the gas station to report a more recent price.
Nice.
Oh,
You
that's
can also enter to win Gas
like
Buddy's
that.
daily draw of $100 in free gas. The more prices you report, the better chance you have to win.
Cool.
If you're planning on filling up and there's several stations nearby, why not check it out? It's an easy way to save an extra few bucks every time you're at the pump. Gas Buddy is completely free and available on Android, iOS, and the Windows Phone Store.
Nice.
Pick it up now and start saving.
All 3 platforms, and it being crowdsourced means in your area it's either going to be really, really accurate or you're going to have to double check it, but you could help make it accurate. Last.ting.com, Mail Hauler in our chat room says, Chris, we're going to have the biggest ting bill we've ever had tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He says it's Christmas season. We're calling all of the family.
Yeah.
All calls to the family, all on the road while he's driving around. His 3 phone lines, everybody's on it.
Wow.
And Mail Hauler himself is on the road constantly during the holiday season, so he's on the phone, all 3 lines, calling all of the family for the holiday season. Mail Hauler's paying $70
Oh, my God. That's
for 3
awesome.
smartphones.
That is crazy.
Last.ting.com. Go check them out. And a big thank you to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Action Show and for turning us on to Gas Buddy.
Right? Yeah, I ran that, and
Okay.
it keeps telling me it's in the room.
Hey,
It's just kind of like, what's going on
How
here?
did it get me reported on
It's
there?
like, it's like, oh, wait, I got to... the cost is reasonable, though. It is,
Yeah,
it's reasonable.
I'm put it out there for a discount.
A little hint of cheese.
a little holiday discount, Matt. So there's really no news this
man.
week. I mean, there's
None.
some stories, but
None.
it's the holiday week. So what we're going to do is we're going to break up our owning up of what we predicted for 2014. In the next segment, we're going to make our predictions for 2015. And I thought, to only be fair, I should start with a prediction that I totally blew, unfortunately. And that's just, because some of them we got. Some of them we got.
Yeah, sometimes we do.
Some of them we blew.
Yeah.
And my prediction for 2014, unfortunately, we got close, but didn't come to fruition.
Software. I say, and I don't know if it's going to come to fruition in 2014, but we will be wowed by a major UI overhaul to the GIMP project.
No, I don't think so. I think I'm wrong. There have been scripts and things that have done this in the past. You want to gain
like GIMP
Photoshop
shop.
users. That's actually it. The number one thing, honestly, keyboard shortcuts. If you want to get Photoshop users, that's the number one argument above and the tools and stuff a little bit. But get shortcuts are definitely a big deal. But see, that's the other one. Those 2 things right there, but especially the shortcuts, because even if they don't know what the tool's new names are, if the shortcuts are there, they can probably handle it.
I would just love to see them redo it, and never know. You never know.
Yeah, it could happen.
GIMP ports to Qt.
I'm not a fan of either UI.
How about GIMP ports to Qt? That'd be a crazy one.
That would
All right.
be weird.
All right, you were right, Matt. I'm not gonna lie, I blew that one for sure. The GIMP did not. Now we did have a chat with someone who was working on the Flat GIMP project. Remember that? And he's working on redesigning the
right.
but it's not what I was talking about at all. It's not GIMP shop level changes.
No.
And I love how you're like, no. You're just like,
I'm just like, no. I'm
it's
just
not
like,
gonna happen.
not happening. Give it
All
up.
right. I think both of you and I were pretty right on. And you know what's funny, Matt, is looking back at where we were at. So when we recorded these, it was essentially right now. It was the end of December 2013.
Notice the attire difference.
And looking back, and we're in the garage. And SteamOS and Steam Machines was a really, really, really big deal at this time.
I'll bust out my 2014 SteamOS prediction right now. SteamOS will prove only moderately successful. It will help bring some great titles to Linux and will continue to see gains in 2013. But at the end of 2014, we'll feel like we're waiting to see the next version of SteamOS in the Steam box before it's ready to go mainstream.
I think that's close. I think that's pretty close. My overall long-term forever thing is, unless that price point is really, really low.
$250, $300.
No, lower than that.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's got.
But then you don't have enough hardware power.
You don't. But that's where it may take even more time.
Yeah, you were right. Yeah, we were both right. We were like, SteamOS, it's going to be cool, but
It's
the
gonna be a
price
neat
isn't
novelty.
there. Yeah,
Yep, that's it.
And I think here we are at the end of 2014, and I think you nailed it. We don't have a Steam machine. We don't have a Steam machine at the right price. And I also thought you nailed the state of Ubuntu Touch, and you kind of zeroed in on who we'd probably end up, the type of OEM for Ubuntu Touch we might end up with.
Do you think at the end of 2014 I'll have an Ubuntu Touch device?
As a advanced user, Linux enthusiast, as someone that runs a show like this, yes.
Do you think it'll be possible?
Is it possible? Absolutely.
Okay.
That means eventually they'll get an OEM excited enough to care. It'll be some.
That's what I was wondering.
And it will be an underdog OEM. It will not be one of the big guys that are doing really awesome.
So not like
Android.
Samsung.
No. It's going to be someone that needs to break out a little bit, and I don't know who that's going to be yet, but it's going to be someone we don't think of that often.
Like BQ, perhaps?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's you really nailed that one.
I got lucky.
And you also were right. Like somebody like me, here's my Nexus 5.
Yeah.
And it's booting Ubuntu Touch right now, right? So I've got Ubuntu Touch on my Nexus 5, but the mainstream consumer doesn't have it.
It's just not there yet.
And we didn't even see it ship at the end of 2014 like we thought we would.
No.
So what do you think? Looking back at that, is that kind of been a bit? Now, I mean, I don't honestly like. I'll tell you where I stand, Matt. So here is the Nexus 5. I'm booting Ubuntu Touch on it right now. We never ended up getting like an official device shipping with Ubuntu Touch support. Do I consider that to be a failure? Like on the surface, yes. But I would also consider it to be a failure if Canonical shipped a product that was not ready for the market, because the market is super competitive. What we've seen happen in 2014 is pretty impressive. iOS 8 landed and the iPhone 6 sold like crazy. Android L landed and it's the best version of Android ever released. So while Ubuntu Touch has been in development, the competition has really leapfrogged where they were at the beginning of 2014. So the fact that they haven't shipped anything yet, I think that's actually a good thing. I think that's the opposite of a failure. That's them being cautious. Unfortunately, for us enthusiasts, it means we're left tuned on test devices, and the next device we see coming around the corner is going to be early 2015 from BQ, and I don't think either one of us are all that excited about it.
No. I mean, at the end of the day, and this is going to be an ongoing problem for anyone entering the mobile market with any type of operating system or even just anything in general, I think they're going to have to decide, first of all, who their market is. It's not going to be Joe user. It's not going to be an Android user. It's not going to be anyone that's locked into an ecosystem. Forget that. What is it, Sailfish? I mean, they're going to be the ones that are going to grab all the Google folks. They're going to get some of that.
But that is becoming a smaller and smaller market.
It is. But as far as Google's concerned?
No, people who are not already locked into a platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
People who haven't bought the interview on Google Play or have $100 worth of apps on iOS.
I think you'd be surprised at how many people are still rocking flip phones that would potentially look at a smartphone.
Yeah.
First of all, you got to actually look at people that are not tech savvy. And once you kind of get out of the ecosystem and you look at some of the smaller communities or places that aren't like big metropolis situations to where everybody's got a smartphone in the front of their face, they exist. And I think if they can address that and they address it first before Firefox, before some of these other guys, nail it.
When you get to outside of Seattle, San Francisco, New
Seattle's
York.
a bad, yeah. I love it when people say that in Seattle, because Seattle's like a poster child example of just tech enthusiasts all over the place.
Yeah.
It really is.
And so I think overall it's a little disappointing that we didn't see something ship. I think, though, if we would have seen it ship, we would have been disappointed. Does that make sense?
It does. Will they ship in 2015? They will, but it will be on probably you won't see Samsung, you won't see LG, you won't see anything.
BQ, right? Yep. You don't think you'll see any of them throughout? Yeah.
They will have a major carrier. I would imagine it's probably going to be whoever is hurting the most at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be somebody that's like the underdog a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like someone I think it'll be someone that's doing really well right now to where the industry is going to flip their butt over, and I think it's going to be those guys thinking, okay, we really got to think outside of the box.
Huh. Well, something else that, like I said, we thought the industry was going to flip over was SteamOS and Steam Machines, and everybody was really talking a lot about it. I want to do a little follow-up. I want to talk a little bit more about this, because I think you and I were pretty on point with our predictions.
I am not going to. 2014, in my mind, will not be the year that determines the Steam box and SteamOS's success. No, it will be. It'll be the priming the pump year. And for us, it'll
set it up to fail or succeed. I think that's...
And I think along the way, the Linux desktop is going to still just keep getting great games if people sort of prime that pump, and we'll just directly benefit from that. But
I definitely see Linux as becoming more of the gaming OS. That I definitely agree with.
The other thing I'm not so sure, and I guess we'll probably see it in 2014, is that whole... And by the way, this is one of the things you predicted, not in the predictions episode, was the streaming from a PC to your Steam box to stream the game titles. I think we'll see that come to fruition, and I think what we'll find is... guys like you and I think it's great, Consumers don't like it because it ties up a PC. You still have to run Windows. You have to have, I'm assuming you're going to need to have a pretty decent GPU in that Windows box to do the remote rendering.
Exactly. It's what turns people off of using Plex, for example.
Yeah, I think we nailed that, right?
Yeah, I think we did pretty much.
It came to fruition. It's surprising looking back at that, and it wasn't a thing yet.
It's like, how are we not getting Johnny Carson money?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like, how are we just not...
Hold up the envelope to the forehead.
And then it just fills with cash when you get it right. That would be awesome.
That would be amazing.
That would be cool.
So Steam streaming, it became a thing, and I think overall consumers have been kind of nonplussed by it. Like, us geeks find it to be fascinating. We see it as a transition technology. Regular consumers don't want to have anything to do with it.
That's it. And I think for them to be successful with this going forward, they're going to have to actually identify, here's the problem it solves, here's what you do with it, here's how you're able to get multiple accountants, for example, to handle.
Do you think maybe here we are, right? And at the precipice of 2015, we still haven't seen Steam machines. Well, you said in that first clip we played of your Steam predictions, and I think very accurately so, you got to have like a $100 box to make this work.
Yes.
But obviously, we've seen from the Ouya, a $100 box, it won't do it. Do you think that is when Steam streaming steps in and says, here's your $100 box, you can play your platformers all native, you can play a lot of the Linux games all native. When you really want to go cray, then you got to use Steam streaming. Is that something that's palatable to consumers?
It is, but they got to pave the road for it. So they need here's what you guys do. You get yourself a YouTube video, you're playing your Borderlands or whatever on your computer, and your child, for example, is like, well, I want to play. And you're like, yeah, but I don't necessarily want you to mess with my configuration of my computer. I'd prefer you were downstairs where we can keep an eye on you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Here's your solution.
That's true.
If you basically kind of lead them to water on that, yes, I think it'd be very successful.
I actually could see that. Like, as a parent,
right.
Yeah, you can play the video games. I want you to play them in the living room so I can monitor you.
Exactly.
And you can still play PC games using streaming.
Exactly, and that's just it. It's with these technologies, don't use the technologies the reason to check the stuff out. They need to lead them to the why they care factor.
Right.
Really.
You got to almost, I hate using this term, but you got to build the story.
You really do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what it is.
But so I think the other part of that we got quite right, though, is we still continue to see a lot of really good games.
Yeah,
Aspire stepped up this year during 2014 as one of the all-star porters of Linux games. If you get an Aspire title, you know it's going to be a good Linux port. We had some like wrapped in the Eon, like The Witcher 2, that less impressive. But overall, we saw things like Civilization come over. We saw Civilization Beyond Earth just launch on Linux, which is amazing. We've seen Borderlands, the pre-sequel, simultaneously launch on Windows and Linux at the same time. 2014, it's funny. My most popular tweet of 2014, according to ThinkUp, was when I tweeted, I can't believe, like, I still get chills when I launch Steam or Netflix on Linux. Like,
isn't that great?
It's full-on legitimate. I've got basically every Steam game that I personally want to play is now available on Linux for me. And as somebody who's been using the Linux desktop since, what was amazing was I could get Outlook to work on Linux, or I could get Evolution to connect with Exchange, and that was such an accomplishment. Now here I am, like, I feel like gaming. Oh, XCOM Enemy Unknown, that's available. I'll go install that. Borderlands, that's available. I'll go install that. Civilization Beyond Earth, I'll go grab that. Like, I feel like today it's something has changed, and I'm no longer forfeiting a lot of stuff being a Linux user.
I think that in addition to that, this year, or at least for 2015, we will see a minimum of 2 groundbreaking games coming from Aspire. And I think they will be potentially bigger than Borderlands. Just call it.
That'd be exciting.
Call it a gut.
I like it. I like it. All right. I think that's good. I'm going to think about that. We're going to do some predictions in the next segment too, but cool. I like that. I think looking at 2015, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not at least 2, and I think Aspire will be a big part of it.
And I mean big. I mean, like, really just like big,
super exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So at the end of 2013, precipice of 2014, Matt and I were saying, this is where we see Linux growth happening, and we kind of had a very level-headed, like, this is where we see OEM stepping up. And let's play it. I think we were probably pretty dead on.
Okay.
The desktop will still fail to get the attention of some core component OEMs as the explosive growth of Internet of Things devices dominates the attention of many. software-based networking, in-car infotainment system, TVs, phones, etc., will all continue to distract hardware manufacturers, and that's where their focus will be.
Oh, yeah.
Despite the biggest growth year for Linux on the desktop yet. I'm not saying 2014 is the year of Linux desktop. I'm saying it's the year Linux sees the most desktop adoption.
I think that the OEMs that are going to be working with the desktop primarily already are. System 76, Reason, Emperor Linux, a variety of other ones. They're already doing it. You're not any newcomers will, come and piddle around a little bit. Big names like Dell and whatnot, they flop one in every once in a while and play with it for a month, and then they pull back out.
They hide it on their website.
I don't take Dell seriously. I'm sorry. I'm buying a Linux box, and you're recommending I do Windows. Go kiss my butt.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. So, I think that most people are going to be trying to run Linux on their existing hardware. That's going to be really where you're going to see most of the growth, especially people that go out and buy something that's designed for another OS and want to install Linux on that. I think that's probably where a lot of that's going to go. I don't see a lot of new OEM action there.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I would add to that we kind of missed, because I think all that's pretty accurate, but the one thing that I think we didn't really see coming was a lot of the crowdsourced hardware stuff.
Big time.
Like the crowdfunding and the Kickstarters and the Indiegogos, where you're seeing stuff that's like, this is designed for Linux, built for Linux.
That's right.
I've crowdsourced one of them. We don't know if it's going to ship. And that was an area we didn't really foresee so much, but I think pretty much, I was looking at it, I went and did some digging around on that particular topic, trying to look at what adoption, where the most Linux adoption has happened in 2014, and the Linux Foundation really kind of nailed this one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Linux Foundation says global enterprise was really where we saw the most Linux adoption this year, and then obviously cloud computing. Yep. Obviously, cloud computing.
That's a given.
Yeah,
but it kind of goes hand in hand.
And also then Wikipedia breaks out 2014, some big moments in 2014 Linux adoption. In March, Ubuntu publicly claimed 22 million users. In September 2014, the Italian city of Turin and the capital of Piedmont decided to switch to Linux. We covered that when it happened. In October, there was that huge German city that said their entire IT infrastructure and 300 thin clients and 6 servers would switch to SUSE Linux. And that's just a drop in the bucket. This year, we saw a ton of education adoption, a lot of really good stuff. We focused on that a little bit with Penn Manor. We've seen a ton of cloud adoption, but we've really seen some major government switches.
Oh yeah, and that was kind of surprising. I mean, you see governments kind of do it every once in a while, but usually Microsoft's real quick in there. They got like a parachuting team of suitcase guys come in and throw money at everybody.
The one thing I would say that maybe I'm surprised didn't influence our predictions more was the end of life support for XP. Because that was that's what influenced a lot of these governments for switching over. I think that was in the back of our minds, but we didn't really make a prediction soundly around that.
No. Well, and not only that, but I found it interesting that it had zero influence on the end user. And I go back to my initial cause for that is the fact no one knows what the hell Linux is.
Well, and isn't that interesting? Because when you look where Apple saw a ton of enterprise growth in 2014. In fact, they even partnered up with IBM because it's that whole bring your own device phenomenon that's happening in IT. Linux is not capitalizing on that yet. And I wonder if that might start to happen in 2015. But right now, Linux is a mandate being set forward by the IT or by management.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Whereas iPad and iPhone is a mandate being set forward by the user.
And I also think Linux is more like hydra-headed monster where Microsoft or Apple is a single-headed monster. And so, you have those things going on as well.
Yeah, you can have
goals.
like something brewing in the background. And it totally seems unrelated, and all of a sudden this thing gets built up and established, and now the users just naturally migrate to that solution.
Exactly.
That is totally possible. And I wouldn't be surprised to see in 2015, I mean, I'm hopeful. I'll save it for my predictions episode, but I'm hopeful that we're going to see, or for the prediction segment, but I'm hopeful that we're going to see some pretty decent user-inspired adoption of Linux.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, in fact.
That'd be very cool.
You know, this is probably a good place to call it. So that was our look back at our 2014 predictions and where we thought things were going to go. Now, in the next segment, we're going to look forward into 2015. Now, during the break, we've been rubbing our crystal balls to make sure we get things nice and ready for our 2015 predictions, and I think we have a few clairvoyant predictions that will knock you back in your seat. But before we get to those predictions that I literally haven't even made up yet, I want to thank our segment sponsor, System 76. Woo! You know what? System 76, they're my rock for 2014. A game the entire time. Like towards the end of the year, new website, but throughout the whole year, they've updated all of their great hardware, designed, born, created to run Linux. And one of the great things System 76 did in 2014 is they announced lifetime support of your Ubuntu installation when you buy System 76 hardware. Now, it truly is the best time to buy a System 76 machine today. If you're watching live, you might want to go over there. They've got a 120 gigabyte SSD special upgrade for all laptops across the board, but they've always got something. And they truly have some of the best desktops too. Now, if you're like me, a laptop is an important piece of machinery.
Absolutely.
For sure. And should, honestly, you know what? You got to buy a great laptop. You need one good laptop, and System 76 has got them. But you're going to need that desktop too, right? Now, Matt, what has it been? 2-3 years since we've been banging on this Wild Dog performance, and it's just been a total champ all along. I love it. We've pulled in the Leopard Extreme, recently updated, on sale right now. Unable to break this machine. We threw real-time Diablo 3 at it, Blu-ray rendering at it, stripping audio from our clips from it, and generating subtitles in real time all at once while using the desktop, and we still couldn't slow down that Leopard Extreme. So many great systems, but really the one that I love is that retail performance. Base price, 679 bones. $680, and then you can just upgrade. You start with why not start with the Intel GPU, but then it's got the open card slots. You can throw in a video card later on. It's a sleeper machine. You can upgrade it as your finances allow, and all along you have a machine designed, built, created, intended to run Linux. That way you stop fighting with your hardware, and you get to play with your Linux. Go over to System76.com and enjoy your Linux, and tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. Get yourself something nice.
You know what I like about their new page there as you look at it? They actually have, if you're just looking for a casual visual of
really
the
easy
specs,
snapshot.
it's like, okay, it's like I'm really into storage, not so much on graphics, or maybe I'm really into graphics. Storage isn't really a thing.
Which one I like?
Leopard.
Yeah, because all the bars. All the bars.
It's like that thing, that you're looking at an admiral right there. If that's on his wrist, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's like, boom.
Yeah, that's legit, man. All right, so here we are. We're just at the end of 2014, and it seems so obvious. First of all, before I get to the crazy obvious first prediction I have that is ridiculously obvious, I want to step back and say, let's acknowledge 2014 is the year of System D.
It really was. It was all about the D.
We talked way more about the D than I expected to talk about the D.
That's right.
And
it kept coming up, popping out.
I felt like the D dominated. And System D was a huge part of. I guess I just didn't foresee the rapid adoption of System D. I thought it would still be a technology we'd be debating. I figured we'd have a 5-year transition period between its systems.
Something we're going back and forth on, talking about. We really need to get in there. And,
as hot and heated as the System D debates were, here we are at the end of 2014, and there has been a crap ton of progress. Debian will switch. Ubuntu will switch. A bunch of distros are already shipping. SUSE has been shipping now for a while with System D. Arch, Fedora, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 shipped with System D. It was truly the year of System D. Kind of amazingly so. What we witnessed in 2014 was Linux's ability to pivot on a fundamental technology within the time span of a year.
I know, it's wild.
That is
so
actually
quick. I mean, with the exception of a few holdouts and various, whatnots. So.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of everybody who's got some skin in the game has made the decision, and it happened. Really, looking back at it in a compressed amount of time, it was very painful while the process happened. But I actually think
it's much like a flower coming through concrete.
Yeah,
is what it felt like. Boom! It kind of worked. It just kind of said, "Here I am, everybody."
Yeah. And it felt like it was every single inch at the time.
Yeah.
And now looking back at it, it feels like a flash.
Well, and the interesting piece of it is that I don't care where your opinion falls on the matter. It's here, kids. Get over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the other thing. Yeah.
Sorry.
So now let's talk about the other thing that's obviously here. Nobody's going to dispute this. Containers and Docker.
Oh, no
right?
kidding, right?
Right. Yeah. 2014, huge year for containerization. I don't think 2015 is going to be the year.
No.
Throughout 2014, we've talked about new ways to distribute software on Linux, and increasing server density. I think what will likely happen, I think containers will continue to see huge adoption. It's going to blow up.
Yeah.
Docker's going to do great. Rocket's going to do great. We're going to come up with a lot of great new uses. You're gonna see probably your humble host here on the Linux Action Show say, here is a project. It's super cool, and you can do it in a container on your distribution right now. And we'll stop saying things like, this only works on Ubuntu. This only works on SUSE. This only works on Arch. That is going to go away.
Yes.
A little bit towards. But what's going to really truly happen is in large scale production, enterprise grade, people are going to look at the Linux stack as a whole and look at virtualization. They're going to look at containerization, and they're going to look at the file system. And I predict that Linux over 2015 will lose a lot of installations to FreeBSD. I think 2015 will be the year that the Linux community recognizes the amount of heat that the FreeBSD project and all of the people around FreeBSD are bringing. They're working on Beehive, which is a serious contender to KVM virtualization. It looks really good, and it's already got a bunch of code. They have had jails way, 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 way longer than we have had Docker.
True.
Right?
True.
And they've got that S worked out. They've got the port system, which is a lot like the AUR, where you can have a much more up-to-date base and then update the applications separately. And on top of that, pretty drama-free.
Right. Now, here comes the other side of it. Does anyone know that? Not really. Not yet. Now, it's not to say, and I'm talking about, yes, some of the more hardcore folks do, but, you know, the guy that just came off the Windows juice for his server stuff, is he aware of that? No, he's going to go with the latest buzzword. And that's, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like CTO.
That's what I think is going to happen. Now,
that's true.
2016, once they've kind of, you know, once these same individuals that just came off the Windows juice got their Linux fixed, then they're going to be like, okay, now I'm feeling comfortable.
See, I feel like, here's what I feel like is happening right now while we're doing this show, while we're doing the Linux Action Show, we're celebrating how great Linux is. FreeBSD is kicking our ass. I feel like FreeBSD is kicking our ass on technology. I feel like FreeBSD is kicking our ass on quality.
Yeah, I agree
feel like FreeBSD is kicking our ass on community because they meet up. They're small. They're in person. Like, they don't have these horrible wars because they're actually communicating as human beings instead of like objects over the internet.
Well, they win on maturity 10-1. There's no question of that.
Right.
I do think that they need to crank the PR machine a little bit.
But that maturity translates, I think, to enterprise appeal. I think that maturity is like, oh, look at that. That's something I want to bet on. That's something I want to trust. And I think I'm not saying Linux is going to lose to FreeBSD.
No, but they need to get the word out and be at more of these IT events. They need, you know, besides just, you know, because when you go to a lot of these, they may or may not be there.
Here's what I think, Matt. Is I think 2015, maybe, if Linux is lucky and they recognize the threat early enough, if Linux is perceptive enough as a community, 2015 will become the year where we recognize that today, FreeBSD on the server is a big of a threat to us as Microsoft was a few years ago. No bigger threat to us on the server, in the cloud, and in our sweet spot today than FreeBSD. And I hope that the Linux community, I hope over 2015, I hope as a community, we come together and we recognize that fact and we don't get bitchy about it, but what we do is we double down on engineering, right? We have ourselves a good old technology competition again. System D versus Launch D, or whatever FreeBSD is going to implement in 2015. KVM versus Beehive. Docker and Rocket versus jails. Like, let's have at it and see who remains standing at the end of 2015.
Definitely. Well, and I think that can happen if BSD can actually, you know, the ready to go production services for an IT staff. It's like, look, you don't care. You just want things that work. Here you go. Here's your appliance. Boom. Done.
Boom. Yeah.
That would do it. But that's what it's going to take.
It's easier from a licensing standpoint. So as FreeBSD integrates more of this functionality and it's BSD licensed, if I am a greedy corporate consumer of open source technology and I don't want to reshare my competitive advantages with the community, there's a lot of like incentive to go with the BSD license.
Absolutely.
For that.
Absolutely. Now, as long as the word's out there, I definitely see this happening.
I don't think it's too late. Like Red Hat is really working on something great with Project Atomic. Fedora with Fedora Cloud and Fedora Server and CoreOS. All of these things are and Ubuntu Core, the new Snappy Core is really good. Like all of these things could be serious and possible competition to the FreeBSD threat. But it requires that they all get their shit together. They've all got to get their shit together, and they've all got to get their shit together in the next few months because FreeBSD has been getting their shit together for like a decade.
They have, but in terms of market share, ain't going to happen in 2015.
Right.
They don't have a prayer, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that it's gonna. They're not wired to be interested in that stuff. They're wired to be interested in quality. To make sure it's a great product that they feel good about, and it does what they need it to do for the things they need it to do. So the vested interests are different, and I think that could potentially compartmentalize them for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, I definitely think from a market share standpoint and percentage-wise,
but I do think the quality is going to continue to do this. I definitely believe that.
And I think for users like you and I, that's going to be aggravating to watch.
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to see is like, honestly, Matt, before we started the show today, a couple of people in the chat room saying, you know what, I'm trying out PCBSD during the show today.
Ooh. Oh, good on them.
I know.
It's a great operating system.
I don't exactly.
I mean, it really is.
If they're doing something interesting, we should be checking it out.
Absolutely.
And
they take cool risks that a lot of times Linux distros won't do. So
like PBIs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Thinking out of the box.
And of course, as all of that develops, you can watch the BSD Now show on the Jupiter Broadcast Network. I like that. It's like we're betting on Linux, but we're watching that BSD.
We hedged our bets.
Yeah, we hedge. So I think containerization will be big. But what our super flashy, promo-y, integrated marketing containerization is going to come up against hard, cold, FreeBSD, been working for years, already has some of these problems solved with containerization. And that's going to be a really interesting horse race to watch. Matt.
Yes.
As we look at 2015, as somebody who's recently switched over to Ubuntu Mate Edition 14.04, right?
Right. That's correct.
What do you see in 2015 for these sort of classical desktop environments like Trinity, like Mate? What do you think 2015 is going to hold for the old school desktop environment?
I think that, especially with the Ubuntu release I'm running, for example, I think 14.04 and a Mate desktop in general, I think you will find that that's going to do more to draw in new users than Unity. And I don't mean that as a negative. I just mean that as people like familiar. They like something that they like. Now, this isn't quite such a shock.
Do you think are you envisioning like people are going to be switching from Unity 7 as we see it today, or do you think like Unity 8 lands? It's so weird. It's so different that people switch.
So different reasons, different strokes. New users will come to the Mate desktop because it's like, I can use this. Okay, that's their thing. Existing Linux users that are perhaps Ubuntu users, maybe even Unity users as it stands now, especially those coming from other XFCE, things like that, will come to it simply because of the fact that it works and it works well. And they know that they know what the experience they're getting. And as Ubuntu gets experimental with some of their desktop stuff, not everybody wants to be part of that. This is a great way to just get into what works and get it done.
So Lionhead in the chat room says that 2015 will be the year of the lightweight desktops. And I don't think Lionhead is wrong. I think he's right. Here's what I think. I think 2015 will be the year that the bet that Mint took with their multi-year release, and that Ubuntu is taking with the let's not focus on a Unity 7. Let's just make it better.
Right.
I think 2015 is the year that check is due. Like that payment needs to be made, and 2015 is going to come along and. I'm not trying to brag, but guys like me on Arch and GNOME 3 and the rolling releases like KDE 5, SUSE Tumbleweed, Fedora, we are going to have such awesome desktops that's so much far and above what the commercial competitors are going to do that I suspect that where Linux's genuine gains are is in that geek, that enthusiast, that when we did How to Linux in 2014, and Chase was sort of like the ideal Windows switcher. He was a Windows power user. He liked to tweak Windows. He was ready to do more. And what he found was those old desktops were not very appealing to him. They weren't customizable enough. They weren't new enough.
Right.
And I think in reality, you have more people switching to Linux that are savvy than you do that new mythical user. Over 2015, I think it's still going to be more of us, more geeks, more enthusiasts switching to Linux. And because of that, I think things like Plasma 5 and GNOME 3 will be way better received because you're getting a modern experience. You can still customize it. You don't feel like you're taking a step back. But I think in terms of raw numbers and organic adoption, things like the Mate project or other or Trinity, other classic desktop sort of paradigms, I think that's where the most growth will happen. I think it'll be a lot of it's still going to be Ubuntu based. Last year I thought it was going to be Arch based. I think this year it's going to be Ubuntu based. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe it's going to be Fedora based. I think a lot of it's going to be traditional Mate edition style Ubuntu based growth. But I think for power users, enthusiasts, the people that are watching this show, those of us who work in IT, those of us who are just like Windows power users that are switching to something else,
I would agree.
We're going to look for the more modern stuff, and a lot of the power user growth is going to happen there.
I definitely think so. Although I think those same users, maybe if they have a secondary desktop, may actually end up going with something a little more lightweight. But I think it's their primary system. They got a machine that will support it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah. I think, and maybe the only thing that could kind of F with my dynamic is if somehow Steam really takes off in 2015 and like people get anal. Like could you not see like people are always like frame rate this, performance that on their Windows boxes, but like you could really go to town on a Linux box. Like you could tweak your kernel, you could go to the CK kernel, maybe you make sure you have the BFQ scheduler and you've got the latest NVIDIA driver and you're really tweaking it out. Like you could, if you got the right kind of gamer who's like a car guy who's always trying to get like that extra little juice.
Oh, definitely.
They might prefer to go XFCE, Mate, something like that.
Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely.
Speaking of XFCE, here we are. Matt, 2015, I know XFCE is one of your faves. How's
it was. I'm not using it any longer. I'm Mate across the board, Ubuntu Mate edition. So going forward, I think that they will still have a pulse. I think there will still be updates. It is still technically being maintained, but as far as features or enhancements, you will not see any. And it will continue to go on to live support mode. And I don't mean that as a negative thing.
So some updates.
Yeah, you'll get updates. Yeah, absolutely. There's people.
Some improvements, but nothing major.
They're still active. They're still doing stuff. It's not like enhancements. It's bug fixes and.
Okay. KDE 5. KDE 5, Plasma Desktop 5. By the end of 2015, I think it's in a pretty good place. It's close now, but it's rough. I tried to switch to KDE over the holiday break. I installed KDE 5, Plasma 5 Desktop, and within about a day, I switched back to KDE 4. And I don't mean just switched back, like I nuke and pave, and I went
hard.
back, like as hard as it gets, right? And then I tweaked. I installed the bspin theme, and I was pretty happy. I still struggle with my audio. I still struggle with some of the things that bothered me about KDE. Just a couple quick ones. I wanted to switch from internal laptop speakers to a USB audio card. I just couldn't make it work. At best, I could get Chrome during the active process session of Chrome, like if I didn't close it, I could tell Chrome using the Veramix Plasma widget to use a certain sound card. And I kind of liked that because I had my chat client on one sound card and I had Chrome on a different sound card and I was watching something in Plex. So my movie was over my big speakers. My chat client was over my small speakers. It was neat, but what I really wanted was I wanted everything over the big speakers. I couldn't make that work.
Yeah, that's, and I've been looking into this deeper, and I think the problem is that the KDE settings are actually competing with the Pulse Audio settings, and I think that that's what's happening for us.
I felt like that.
I'm not, because I bet you if you uninstall Pulse Audio, it probably works fine.
By the way, awesome, just for record, this time this install, because I try it. Sometimes I do Pulse, I do audio, I do the KDE backend with VLC, and sometimes I do it with a GStreamer. This particular install, I did GStreamer. A lot of times I do VLC. I was just trying something different. I couldn't get the audio to work. The other thing that just drives me freaking crazy about KDE is if you connect to a network share in Dolphin. It doesn't actually like mount it. So like if you want to open like a VLC like MKV file, it copies the file locally and then opens it. It's small stuff like this. However, I think by the end of 2015, Plasma 5 Desktop's the way to go. That said, it's going to be GNOME's year. I think it's going to be. I think 2015. Personally, I think it's going to be GNOME's year. I think Red Hat and Fedora are in a sweet spot. I think the GNOME project is really now firing all cylinders. They've recognized they went too far. 2014, I think, was the year the GNOME project realized we cannot develop our UI and our feature set in a vacuum from our users. Our users will drag us through the coals. And over 2014, through GNOME, through all the GNOME releases, what we saw was sort of a bringing back the power user. Agreed. And I think at the end of 2015, it's going to be the conversation will have changed from is GNOME 3 viable to GNOME 3 is the obviously most polished Linux desktop available.
And it's an interesting path for GNOME in general. When they started out, it was about usability and basically the Mate approach to doing things. It was like it had a very different approach than they do now. Now when GNOME 3 first came out, they didn't really have a target, in my opinion. Now they've kind of settled, as you said. They nailed it and said, okay, now we know who we're appealing to. Now we got something to work with. Yeah. We're appealing to power users. So that's awesome, and they're doing a really good job at that.
Power users who are still very design-centric.
Exactly. Big time.
So when I was watching our predictions from last December, you were pretty heavy on Manjaro and Integros. We saw a lot of people switching from Ubuntu to those. Oh, man. Here we are. Now you're on Ubuntu Mate Edition.
I got cranky and just,
What do you think 2015 looks like for, Manjaros and Integros?
Boy, I think that both of them are going to continue to have their place. I think that they actually address a need. They're targeting the people that are coming from, say, Ubuntu or Fedora or whatever, that want an experience to where they don't want to roll their own operating system, but they really love Pac-Man.
And they're ready for the next level. Right?
Yeah, they want the next level.
Yeah.
I think most people, honestly, if we take all the nonsense out of the argument, they're going for Pac-Man. They're not going because they want to tweak their system. They don't care about, building their own whatever. They don't care. They like Pac-Man. They like the bleeding edge packages. They like the rolling distro. Mm-hmm. That's why they're coming to these distributions. Right. That's why I came, honestly.
Same here. Yeah. Kits and Kitty in the chat room says that GNOME will partner with Mate and smaller GTK-based desktops to create a common standard so that their apps work across each other and not look out of place.
I hope. It would be awesome, and I would hope so, but based on the way they do things,
I don't look at the way the GNOME project rolled out client-side decorations. It was kind of like, this is what we're doing.
That's kind of my... Yeah.
And then desktops like the Cinnamon project were like, okay, well, we will try to incorporate that in our next release. And they did, but it was sort of like, here's what we're doing, have at it, try to make it work.
GNOME's getting much more Apple in their approach of, you're going to like it and we're going to tell you like it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because, again, they have their target audience of people that want to do what they got going on and whatnot. But I don't think they're really that interested in hand-holding. I just don't.
All right, Matt. So 2014. We didn't really see this one coming because of the whole systemd thing. It was a rough-ass year for Debian. Really rough for Debian. How do you think 2015 looks for Debian? Here's my prediction. 2015 for Debian is sort of a healing year. We see continual releases from Debian. We see some new reorgs. Mm-hmm. We recognize some new community members. But overall, Debian kind of looks, at the end of the day, a lot that it looks today. Do you think we're going to see anything major happen with the Debian project itself over 2015?
2 or 3 more of those fizzle fart forks that we keep seeing pop out.
You think we'll see some more flare-ups?
They'll flare up and be like, oh, look at me, I'm important. No, I'm done. And they die away. We'll see some of that. I definitely think it'll be a healing period. I also think we're going to see some more Google Plus posts, from angry whatevers. Much like a Debian release cycle, I think it's going to stagger a bit and just kind of
here's my hope stretch goal, and Plasso in the chat room just nailed it for Debian. I don't love it. I would like to see Debian come up with a PPA-like solution for 2015. Like, honestly, one of the reasons I will go with Ubuntu over Debian is for PPAs.
Yeah, I would, but I would like them to not just, carbon copy the concept.
Because it's not a great system.
It's not. I mean, even with PPA Manager, that's a huge help. It's a more of a Pac-Man-like situation would be ideal.
I would love to see more distros work with the OpenSUSE build service.
Yeah, that would be cool. Although it's a good idea, but their stuff
it's not going to happen, is it?
There still misses stuff. When I've tried using it in the past, it does still miss some things. So, it's the right idea.
I want to put a stake in the ground right here. Yeah. My prediction for OpenSUSE build service and for Copper is more of the same.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, I think So let's look at the Arch user repository, the AUR. The thing about the AUR is it's very simple. You don't do the building on the servers. You basically give it, here's some instructions, here's some info.
Right.
This tells the client, here's the URLs to grab packages, here's your build options, here's where the files go, here's the icons you need to update. Now, when you go to install it, you are going to have to take care of all of the local building. You're going to take care of all the dependency matching. You're going to take care of all of that local sanity check, and then you're going to build. With Copper and the OpenSUSE build service, it's the exact opposite of that. You submit them the source build, the source RPM file or whatever. They remotely build the package. They create repos for the different versions of the distributions. And then you, as a user, go add that repo and you install it and you get a package. It's really easy. But the problem is all of these remote build services are having a really hard time staying up to date with how fast Linux changes, how fast the distros change. And when you remotely build, what you do is you inherently, just by its very nature, you limit that package only available to the distributions and the scenarios that build service can know about. When you build on the client like the AUR does, then what you're doing is fundamentally OpenSUSE and Copper, OpenSUSE build service and Copper sort of look at Linux as like, well, that's the 13.2 release.
Exactly.
That's the Fedora 21 release. And we know everything about that. We can build a package for that. We can deliver a package to that. And what the AUR is about, the AUR says every Linux machine, every Linux install is different. Everybody has customized their Linux machine to some extent. It might be on ARM. It might be on Intel. It might be PowerPC. Yeah. Like the AUR, it's Honey Badger. It don't care because all of the building is happening locally. If you don't have everything you need, it don't build. If you have everything you need, it builds or it pulls it down. Fundamentally, that is the difference. And the thing is that that's what scales because every Linux install is different. Every Linux install is a fork of mainline Linux in a sense, in kind of like a way, right? And so what the AUR does is it acknowledges that. It keeps it super simple on the remote end. It's just a package description. It's the links to the files. You take care of all the hard work on your own. And that's why it's successful. On Copper and on OpenSUSE build service, all of the building happens in the cloud. All of the depth checking, all of the environment assumptions, everything about the end user is assumed and then built in the cloud. And if you don't meet those assumptions, sorry about your luck, you don't get the file.
That's
true. So I think fundamentally Copper and the OpenSUSE build service are limited by that design choice. And because how fast Linux moves, they'll never be able to keep up. And if you look at it, 2014 was easily the best case scenario for the OpenSUSE build service and for Copper because you got 14.04, which is a long-term release, doesn't change a lot, right? You got the OpenSUSE Evergreen release, 13.1 or whatever the hell it was. That's been on the market now for months, right? You've got Fedora 20. It had a year-long release cycle. Right? This is literally the best case scenario for distro stabilization and normalization. Like distro's not changing a lot, right? That was 2014, and these build services all sucked. They didn't have the things I wanted. They didn't build on the distributions I wanted. They're great for a lot of you. They didn't work for me. They're missing a lot of stuff. Meanwhile, every single day, the AUR continued to deliver. I think it fundamentally comes down to the design behind the two or the systems. The AUR does all of the work on the client side, which means you got to have some CPU. It means you got to have some compute power.
It does, although I've done it on Atom, so it's really not a big deal.
It's not that bad.
It really isn't. I mean,
but the OpenSUSE build service and Copper, they're doing that all in the cloud. And you know, when I was trying to bring HaruPad over to Fedora, I kept running into build failures on the cloud, and I had like very limited transparency and troubleshooting capability. And I thought to myself, you know, if I'm building this locally, I'd already have this built by now.
Right, exactly.
And so I think if you're going to be a user over 2015 that wants access to the best stuff, you know, I'm talking like the new California GNOME calendar that just had a release over the holiday week that looks gorgeous. I'm talking HaruPad, right? I'm the best Markdown editor on any platform ever created. I'm talking about things like Corebird, right? These are just 3 applications I named. There are some of the best applications we've seen come out in the last month or 2 or 3 months, 6 months on the Linux desktop.
And where are you getting them?
Arch. Arch.
That's true.
Because of the AUR. And 2014 was obviously the year we switched over to Linux. I'm looking at the way they do it. I think fundamentally it comes down to the AUR. It's It's less in the cloud, more local, and I think that is what for Linux works because every Linux installation is a little bit different than the other Linux installation. And I think Copper and I think the OpenSUSE build servers throughout 2014 will continue to struggle, throughout 2015 will continue to struggle with this fundamental design problem.
Well, and another thing that AUR did that I liked and I really miss with PPAs, honestly, is that when I have a build error or I'm trying to install something and it's giving me a whatever, it's like, okay, so I've checked everything's great, I got all my dependencies, it's good. Why am I getting this error? I can go into the comments, drop that in, and within usually 10 minutes, I have an answer as to what I missed. That kind of, and it's a simple thing, but it's a big deal. Now, on the flip side of that, frankly, honestly, I have less issue installing software with PPAs than I do with AUR, factually speaking.
Yeah,
it's a wash.
Yeah, I agree. Like I have AUR builds that just fail to install.
Exactly.
And then they require troubleshooting. So that's a legitimate point.
I would say 99.8% of the AUR apps install great. But you always had that 0.02 or 0.2. That
and generally, if you can find a PPA with a working repo, you're going to have it installed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Also, just while we're kind of curving this the application side out, and maybe this is because we're about to feature an email in our feedback segment, but I think you're going to start to see more applications developed specifically for Ubuntu, or
that's
maybe
what I've been
even
seeing.
Specifically for elementary OS.
Maybe 2016. Maybe
2000. Yeah.
2016.
We're gonna have an email in the feedback segment that might change your mind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh okay. Cool.
So application delivery on Linux will continue to be weird. I don't think we're gonna see this containerization. One application for all distros thing, but God, I would love it. Like if I could have like a wish list at the top of that wish list for the end of 2015 would be like at least a solid way to install one application on just about any distro, as long as you're using like an x86 processor or something.
Right.
I would love to see like, maybe it's not like the decided blessed method, but at least something really solid is usable that we could even demonstrate to the viewers.
And I think that's going to happen this year. I think in 2015. I do. I don't think it's going to be widely adopted, but I see probably at least 2 distros going with it. Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, did you have any other?
No, that's really about it.
Should we do an Ubuntu Touch Mobile since it's been like a 3-year thing now? I feel like so
if I touch it, it will come.
My Ubuntu Touch is still booting since it's still look at that.
Wow, I was gonna say it's been going for how long now?
I don't think it's gonna go.
And that's it's.
At least it spins. It does sit there and spin, so that's good. It's sitting and spinning quite well.
It's still in development. I give him a pass on it. It's fine.
So, do you think in 2015, Matt, that you'll be able to? Okay, here's my question for you. I'll make it nice and easy.
Okay.
The end of 2015. We got a whole year.
Yeah.
Matt, do you predict that pretty much if you have a popular smartphone, you will be able to flash Ubuntu Touch if you want?
Too many variables. Each phone is so different, and so the reason why it works is like when they say, okay, a Nexus whatever the hell model it is or whatever, it's because it's it's that Appleization of stuff. They can look at the hardware and say, okay, we can freeze frame that. We know we can make everything work on that thing. Same thing with tablets. So I don't think they quite have the resources to do that. I think they're going to be basically pocket shotting into various models of Nexus phones and maybe a couple of other brands.
The quote-unquote blessed devices will work well.
Yeah, and we may see an expansion on blessed devices, but I don't think we're going to know.
That's exactly. I think blessed devices, but I think we'll be looking at the end of 2015 and thinking it's a good first start.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's. I felt like we had to get the Ubuntu Touch thing in there. That was mandatory. Any other like mandatory predictions we have to have for 2015?
Not that I can think of.
Chromebooks?
One thing I was going to make that's really important. I'm seeing this, and I'm beginning to see why people are adapting to it. I've watched people from OS 10 convert to Windows over it. Actually,
what?
The little flippy floppy tablet laptop things.
Like
get on that, guys.
Really?
Oh, big time. That is a big friggin' deal. Everyone I know, everybody wants those. Everybody, and it's not. Because what happened is they got past the crappy software aspect of it, and they got into the cool hardware part of it. And people are beginning to realize, oh, hey, I can see myself using that. Microsoft finally hired a PR team that didn't suck, and they're presenting some interesting arguments. The software still blows. The device isn't even really that great, but the presentation of it is fantastic. That's the issue.
You think that convergence, like
it's working? And
take
it's
a
happening.
laptop, disconnect it, make it a tablet. That's the thing. Go
into the stores and watch. People are crowding around it. It's becoming a big deal, and the reason why is because it created and then solved a problem no one knew existed. Now, does that mean that it's going to outpace Mac or what are this other stuff? No, not necessarily. But I think that people that were wanting to get away from desktops and laptops but weren't quite ready to go full tablet are really, really soaking into it hard. I've seen went to the local newspaper. Everyone had them. It's like it's becoming a thing. So Linux needs to get on that. That is a thing. I can see it being functional. There are times where it would be nice to be like,
you're sitting at your desk, you're working. Now it's time to go to a meeting.
Yeah, a lot of people are installing Linux on them because they're cool. It's like, okay.
I have, ThinkPad's got a good.
ThinkPad's got a good example. No one has heard of it, but it's great.
Yeah, I have an Apple prediction. Yeah. And then I want to talk about Wayland, and then I'm all done. So my Apple prediction is, I think before the next OS X release. So Yosemite came out October-ish or whatever it was.
Right.
So let's just assume that the next OS X release comes out around the same time, about a year release cycle. Yeah. I suspect by the end of summer, a lot of power users will be so aggravated with the undelivered promise of the OS X experience. People are going to buy $3,000 Macs. They're going to get Yosemite on there, and then they're going to realize it doesn't perform the way I want.
Right.
The file system is shit.
Yeah.
The system does not handle itself very well under load. And I'm extremely limited in what I can do with it. And I think a lot of people will look at things like Fedora and some of these options, and I think you're going to start to see, I hope, more MacBooks switch over to Linux because Apple's head is not in the desktop game. And I feel like I've kind of roughly made this prediction for a while, but as someone who has editing machines on Mac OS, I got to tell you guys, Yosemite is the worst release of OS X we have ever used production-wise. The interface is laggy, dragging and dropping clips has become horrible. It starts to feel like what they're focusing on Yosemite is very consumer-friendly.
Yep.
It's something that, if you're a yuppie and you got some money and you want to get yourself an all-metal laptop, you can get yourself a decent OS to check out Facebook. It works pretty good. If you want to actually use your computer to do some development, system administration, web development, learn and experience computing, you might end up switching to Linux. And I think the MacBook hardware will continue to be unchallenged in 2015, but more people that watch this show will be running Linux on a MacBook at the end of 2015 than the people that are watching this show running Windows 7. I'm not saying not saying Windows 8 or 10. I'm saying specifically because right now, stat-wise, it visits to our website, it's like 58, 60% Linux users, and the rest are all Windows 7 users for the most part.
Because that was kind of their sweet spot,
Right?
It was their Windows 2000.
I think those users over 2015 will be the users we reclaim. Yep. I think they might buy MacBooks because they're pretty good hardware, but then they'll see those limitations. They'll feel the edges of that box. And I'm saying it's going to take a while. Like, they're going to get the new hardware. They're going to have the honeymoon phase. They're going to celebrate the fact that they can go pay $1,000 for Photoshop. They're going to celebrate the idea of an app store. They're going to be all in. And then about the fall, we'll come around and they'll realize, man, this box is a lot smaller than I thought. And I think 2015 will be the biggest year for Linux on MacBooks ever.
I think so. I think definitely when you're talking about IT folks, development folks, absolutely hands down agree. As far as new users, no. They get once you get locked into an ecosystem, they own you.
Now, do you think Windows 10 is going to be an issue? It's got compiz-like effects. It's got virtual desktops. It's got the shell environment. Do you think Windows 10?
I think it becomes, for Windows, it's okay. So the way Microsoft is going currently, and I have a nephew that works there, so I have some insight here. The way we kind of talked it over with is it's less about the software and the operating system, and it's more about what does the thing in front of me do for me, and they're kind of going that direction. And so I think with Windows 10, I think if they're able to get it in the devices people want, whatever they may be, they're probably going to see some upswing from 8, I think. Now, it's going to be huge?
Right.
No.
People are thinking less, though, about the OS and more about...
They're finally beginning to clue
how am I going to use this?
Yeah, they're kind of taking more of an Apple approach or more just an appliance approach.
Yeah, consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're getting a little better about that. What it won't do is it won't take away from Linux users. It's not going to sway Mac users. It's going to maintain status quo to a degree with
You think
Windows
it'll
users.
stop the bleeding?
It will basically, it's about as good as putting some mud and grass in your wound. It will stop. It won't be pretty. You're still going to get some leakage. You're probably going to get some pus around the edges.
Oh!
But once you kind of pop that out, just kind of accept the fact that you're patching yourself
little
with mud.
sachet pus?
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of get that get that up in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll slow the bleeding down.
Okay.
And what they do in 2015, it's going to be hard to say, but the last couple of months, again, operating system still sucks. The experience still blows, but their marketing got a lot better, and it's working. And I've seen evidence of it over and over and over.
Do you think 2015 will finally be the year that we drop Flash?
No, not even remotely. Everything runs on Flash. That's the problem. I can run
really?
Flash. Yeah, it's great until you want to you're at work and you're like, oh my God, I'm bored. Oh, I could play games. Oh no, I can't. I don't have Flash. You get into, or I really want to get into my anonymous mode and watch some videos, and a lot of those are also in Flash. So when you hit anytime you hit sex or you hit gaming, if Flash is part of that,
I didn't even think about porn.
Yeah. Porn's a thing.
That's a guaranteed.
So,
right there. That's a guaranteed. Good point.
Yeah.
You know what, Matt? I like how you always bring the porn angle into our predictions. That's good.
I'm telling you, if the industry adopts something, there you are.
All right.
It's all about handy.
That's our crystal ball for 2015. Now, on Tuesdays, Linux Unplugged, we have that open Mumble Room, which you are welcome to join. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get the time. We're going to take the Mumble Room's 2015 predictions and probably have some back and forth with them. So join us for Tuesdays, Linux Unplugged, and make your predictions for Linux in 2015 and get an expanded set, because I think there's going to be a lot of bouncing off, playing off each other's predictions.
Right.
So this should be a great episode of Linux Unplugged, and then we'll take those at the end of 2015 and see how we did. We'll live up to it.
Yeah, and so far we've done pretty well.
We have.
Pretty well.
We have. You could bet on us. All right, Matt, that's the Linux Action Show's look at 2015 for Linux. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. But Matt, before we get out of here, we got some feedback to do, some questions to answer.
Okay.
The first one comes in from Bob's Drunk. He says, I have a Linux Mint laptop and is Ubuntu on my netbook. They both work without a hitch, which means there's really been no need to tinker with them.
Good on you.
It says it's a good kind of sad to have. So I need a new project. Gotta have a new project after all this boredness. I have an old desktop. It's a Dell Optiplex 745 with a Core 2 Duo, 2.13 gigahertz, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and an 80 gigabyte hard drive. I'm wondering between an XBMC setup or an OwnCloud project, but I'm not sure if limited RAM would be a problem. Any other ideas I could use for a home server project? Matt, any suggestions?
XBMC is cool. You'd be okay for ZoneMinder. That would be okay.
Oh, yeah.
You could actually, if you added another stick of RAM, you could probably run both.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Yeah, totally. I thought maybe what might be neat is set up a Bacula network backup server to like an external USB hard drive. Bacula is awesome. You could do Subsonic. That's a centralized media server that's also really great for podcasting.
Yes.
You could set up a GitLab server on your own LAN, and whenever you change your config files, you could check them out, check them in.
I think for me, so much of that stuff's just done DigitalOcean nowadays that I forget to,
exactly.
It's just like, I don't really want to run the power.
Here's a good one. Okay, all right. Okay, here's a good one. Here, I got a good one for your LAN.
Okay.
A local caching DNS server, just caching.
That would be fantastic.
Because if you're a speed freak, you'll notice the difference. You'll notice the difference with a local DNS. It's not a big difference, especially if your ISP is pretty good.
Exactly.
If your ISP sucks, though, but even just having over your local LAN, doing that DNS query over 2 milliseconds versus 13 milliseconds.
Definitely.
It seems like a small thing, but the web browser, it can't do its gerb until it's resolved that name. So the faster you resolve that name, the faster your S loads. And the other thing about that is a lot of websites, like the JB website, load assets from a bunch of different domains.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you can resolve those domains faster, you load that page faster. So a local DNS server wouldn't be bad. But here's my favorite pick.
Okay.
This is the one I put some serious thought into this. I want to recommend you set up a tiny RSS server.
Oh, big time. Yes.
Google Reader's dead. Feedly is Feedly, but tiny RSS lets you have your own Google Reader on your server. Don't require too much RAM, and it works with a bunch of great mobile apps. It's an open source, web-based news feeder. So you plug in the RSS feeds, the Atom feeds, and it aggregates all of that S for you. It's designed to allow you to read the news from any location. So you can check it on your smartphone, and it'll be marked as red when you check it on your desktop.
And it works so well.
Or you check the web interface. Yes, totally. And it's as close to a real desktop app as far as the web UI goes that's out there. So it's tiny RSS. Totes recommend you check that out. Obviously, own cloud would be fine. 2 gigabytes of RAM for yourself, maybe a couple other people own cloud. Not a big deal. It's going to work just fine.
Yeah, RAM's cheap. Go for it.
Yeah, and you know what? Matt's right. RAM's cheap. Maybe drop another couple of gigs in that rig, and then you're really set.
I mean, for myself, it'd be like a couple of less trips to the burger joint or whatever it might, and get some RAM. Well, it's all about priorities.
Less trips to the burger joint. Let's not get crazy. All right, next email comes in from Mank319, and he writes in about an app pick suggestion. It's an open source project from a JB community member. He says it's called Go For It. It's a simple and stylish productivity app featuring a to-do list merged with a timer that keeps you focused on your current task.
Oh, wow. I need that.
Yeah. It's written in Vala. It's targeted towards desktops like Pantheon on Elementary OS. Remember I was saying?
Oh, yeah. I see where you're going with this.
But it works on anything. It should work on GNOME, Cinnamon, maybe even your Qt fancy desktops. But Mank has created, with help of a buddy, a YouTube video mat of the application.
On.
So let's check this out.
Check it out.
Yeah, I'm opening it up right now. Here we go.
Already liking it.
From an audience member.
If it gets me moving like this, I'm sold.
Does your desk also end up covered in post-it notes occasionally because your task management is somewhat chaotic? Experimenting with different productivity techniques, I ended up with 2 things. A simple to-do list, and a timer that keeps me focused on the recent task by reminding me to take regular but limited breaks. As a logical consequence, I try to find a way to combine both in a single application. And this is where Go For It comes into play. The interface of Go For It is split up into 3 parts: the to-do list, the productivity timer, and an overview of completed tasks.
That's nice.
Wow. I do like that.
To add a new item to the to-do list, simply enter its description into the corresponding field. Select the task and switch to the timer view to activate.
Create a PPA.
Yeah.
The duration defaults to 25 minutes, but feel free to enter whatever you like. Once the timer is running, it's your turn to start working. As soon as you finish your current task, mark it done, which will automatically select the next task in the list. Moreover, the timer is stopped to allow for choosing an alternative. Press start again to continue with the next
I like the
task.
progress bar along the top
Yeah,
there.
that's really helpful. That with the timer.
You see that progress bar go?
That's cool. I like that.
When time's up, Go For It reminds you to take a little break.
Little
Do
pop-up
something that
notification.
relaxes you. Ideally, you should
that's
even leave your
great.
computer for a while, but that's of course completely up to you. After the break, start all over with your current task. This is everything you have to know about the Go For It workflow. Well, you should also check out your done list from time to time, because it's really motivating to see all the things you achieved lately. I hope you enjoyed this little presentation, and I hope you'll even more enjoy the program itself. Go For It is released as free and open source software. That being said, it's been a lot of work till here, and it will probably be a lot more work to maintain in the future. So I rely on your support, which can be code contributions, bug reports, feedback, and last but not least, financial donations that give me a chance to keep working on Go For It with a certain priority. Thank you.
Pretty neat. And you can see how an application, maybe you could say designed for Elementary OS, is a little inspired. A little more so than your typical Linux desktop app.
I like that. I like that a lot.
So
I
it's
love
called
the timer.
Go For It, yeah. And it's like the Pomodoro technique combined with a task management application. He says, I wish you all a Merry Christmas, Manuel, a.k.a. Mank31.
Yeah, if I could just do like the next step to that, to where it just does the stuff for me.
Yeah.
I mean, that would just be so awesome.
That'll be amazing, Matt.
That would be great.
I don't
That'd be
think that's
cool.
going to happen in 2015.
Not going to happen ever, but that's
No.
okay.
You know what I might do in 2015, though? I might go to detonation.com, scroll down to open source, and read one of Matt's great articles.
Yeah, I was kind of touting my why I think everyone should consider switching to the Mate desktop.
Ubuntu Mate Edition right
Yeah.
there, and kind of a good end capper to 2014.
I think so, and and when I say this, I don't mean an absolutism that you dump all your other desktops and just go this way exclusively.
What I wanted to fight.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saying, hey, look, maybe you have another machine that maybe it's a laptop, maybe it's a netbook, maybe it is a secondary desktop. Install, try it. I think you'll like it.
Are you advocating that I take a reasonable position on?
Yeah, right. No.
I can't do that, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't do that. My ego is too wrapped up in it all. We'll have links to our Google Plus profiles as well as our Twitter profiles in the show notes and the Jupiter Broadcasting Instagram feed. Yes.
Ooh.
Instagram feed. Also, don't forget to check out Linux Unplugged on Tuesday and maybe contribute your own prediction. We'll just do a mic check, and then you can join our open virtual Linux users group.
Right.
Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to find out the live times for Linux Unplugged or this very show. We do it on Sundays, 10 a.m. Pacific over jblive.tv. You can hang out in our IRC room, chat with us during the segment breaks, help title the show. But if you want that 24/7 action experience, you got to go to that subreddit, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. Go there, contribute show ideas,
That's right.
app picks, community engagement, comments, even your votes make this a better show. linuxactionshow.reddit.com. One of my favorite things of 2014. I think it's going to be one of my favorite things of 2015. So go over there and check it out. And last but not least, go to jupiterbroadcasting.com, click the contact link, and you can choose Linux Action Show from the drop-down. And you can send us your email, just like Meg did, about your cool project or any questions or anything like that you want to have featured on the big show. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. See you right back here next week. So this is a true story about Chris. Not always, but like 88% of the time, when I pee, I spend the entire time taking a leak appreciating how great it is to be able to take a leak. Like, because if anything were ever to happen to my penis and I couldn't, right, I couldn't take a leak, like, just like that small thing in life being taken from me would be so. So what I do now is every time I try to take a leak, and I've done this for almost all my life, I try to appreciate the moment just in case I never have, like, in case like in the future I don't have that moment, right?
Yeah, in case it's a Guara moment or something.
Yeah, like, or I
detachable.
gotta have like hoses hooked up because of some sort of horrible accident or something.
I've had a catheter. That's no fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Definitely not
man.
a DIY kind of deal.
I had to
let me
walk
tell
around a hospital with a catheter one time. That is
you wouldn't
no
want to trip
good.
on that.
No. Oh wow. No.
Okay.
So this is like a new thing about Geek Shed, where it's just like what Geek Shed does is see right there where it says, "Hey, go fuck yourself." See right there where it says "fuck
Yeah,
yourself."
and it's blinking with the
it
little
just
finger.
Says, see how it says "fuck you" right there? That's the new thing that Geek Shed does all the time
Thanks,
now.
man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Really
Just-
appreciate that. That's
Yeah.
freaking great.
Yeah.
Connecting. Hey, and while you're at it, check out our new features.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, once we get through the damn news, we'll actually be able to connect to IRC. It's only 2015, so being able to connect an IRC server.
You get cheap gas, you get crappy IRC. This is the way this works.
What are you, an asshole? You think you can just connect to IRC?
Yeah.
What are you, an
Come
asshole?
on.
Come on.
Don't be new.
Don't be a
chump.
Come on.
Don't
Catch
be a
up.
chump. No, I'll go back. I want to go back to the gas stations days when they came out in ties and like cleaned your windshield.
Like
and
an
stuff.
organ.
Yeah, right. No kidding. Yeah, how weird is that?
It is very weird.
I went down there and I almost got tackled by a guy after I pumped my own
don't you
gas.
dare get out of your car and get gas. Don't you dare. No. That's literally against state law.
I don't know how to pump gas.
You are breaking the law.
It's like I don't understand how that's a thing. It's like I never could understand that.
What? Okay, so what is it about me as a person where I cannot go forward with the show until that stupid frickin' IRC client connects? What is it about me? Like, I'm just gonna, what we're gonna do? We're gonna move on because I'm gonna watch a Kyra video and it's gonna make me feel
block
better.
it out, yeah.
I'm gonna watch a Kyra video and then I'm not gonna be upset anymore because that IRC client isn't connecting.
Right.
When all I want is that IRC client to connect because we're gonna do our 2015 predictions and we haven't done any planning and I would like to have the chat room available to me, but I can't get the IRC client to connect.
Absolutely.
Why would that upset me? I don't think that should upset me at all, and I'm not upset. Why did we start the show?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Damn it! I just want IRC. I do not understand why that's asking for too much. I just whatever.
Captain Kirk is climbing a mountain. Why is he climbing a mountain? Captain Kirk is climbing a mountain. Why is he climbing a mountain? Captain Kirk is climbing a mountain. Hold called it, please? Hug the mountain. Envelop that mountain. Hug the mountain. To envelop that mountain will hug the mountain. That mountain. That mountain. He wants to make love to the mountain. And the climb is
His signature pauses.
where no man has gone before. Where no man has gone before.
You know, it's funny, but like what he's telling you here is, like, he is thinking about every aspect of his performance. Like, why is Captain Kirk climbing that mountain, and what is his connection to that mountain? Now, that sounds really dumb.
No, but for an actor, that's
what they got to do, right?
Really, if you want to be effective and not end up on the Sci-Fi Channel, yes.
And so, where is this from? This is from these are from, if you watch Star Trek V. And the best of, like the behind the scenes stuff. This is from Star Trek V.
Challenge the rock. Challenging death. Why do I climb the mountain? Because I'm in love.
So, you know, what he's saying is what Captain Kirk is doing is Captain Kirk is challenging death. Captain Kirk is trying to connect with the mountain, and I mean it's easy to make fun of, but I actually
it's fun. But
I do actually. Oh my God, Matt! Oh my God, there's a 4-hour version.
Oh, that's...
Look at this. There's a 4-hour version.
Tie someone to a chair and just like, oh my God.
Let's go in like.
Where no man has gone before.
Look how proud he's like. Where no man has gone before, and he just like sits there and smirks like, yeah, I just did that.
It's like, really?
We still are not in the IRC room. Okay,
of course not. No.
For those of you who are new,
because we're using ports.
By the way, welcome to the internet. And IRC, it turns out, been around longer than HTTP. So you would think, as a species, as like all of humanity, you would think by now, in 2015, that somehow we would have managed to make IRC, which has been around since before HTTP, more reliable. But no, here I sit, not able to join the chat.